winning has a cost. A lot of people don't really understand that winning has a very heavy price tag associated with it. And you have to be careful when you win. And this sounds so negative, right? Like, shouldn't winning be good? In theory, winning is good. The sensation itself is very euphoric. You're out-competing your competition. But winning, outside of the euphoric sensation itself, has a lot of issues that come with it, a lot of consequences that come with it. Heavy is the head of the person that wears a crown, right? So, number one, you become a target. You become a target for people because now you are their bar, their expectation, their goal where they have to hit. And the philosophy really becomes, how can I destroy this person? And sometimes being number one gives you a lot of attention that isn't necessarily good, because people will cheat, people will try to hurt you, people will try to take you out more than anybody else, because if they can take you out and you're number one, then philosophically they're number one. So winning has a cost of making you a target. And when you win, being a target is just part of it. Being well known is part of it. That idea of being a target can also be the target of some kind of kind gestures. Obviously, when you're winning, people are happy about having you around in whatever category you're in, but also it can warrant a lot of fake love. And then there can also be a lot of hate. Typically, there's more hate when it comes to, you winning something. And this is what people don't really understand. Like, whenever you win something really, really big in life, there's a period where you are loved. There's a quick period where you're loved. But it's typically followed with a lot of hate, a lot of competitiveness, a lot of people trying to discredit you. This is like very normal. And I'm talking like large things. Like, you win a large competition. You are number one in your category in some kind of, if you're a top producer at your business, for example, people are going to say, oh, you're writing a fraud business. It's a scam. There's no way he can do those numbers. If you're a top athlete, look at LeBron, look at Cristiano Ronaldo. Like, look at all these guys that are top level, out competing everybody. They're not as loved as you think. They're respected, but they're not loved. And the big thing is, it's better to be respected than loved, in my opinion, obviously. That's a very, very core principle that I could talk about in another podcast. But outside of that respect, there's a lot of hate. There's a lot of jealousy. There's a lot of insecurity. There's a lot of, I want to be you, and I don't want you to be you, so I want to take what you have. Because sometimes people think it's easier to steal and take something than actually build it for themselves. And in some cases it is. If you're aiming at a person that's very vulnerable and that is off the highs of their success, then it is. And that leads me into the second area. Winning makes you dumb. Winning doesn't teach you anything. Success is a terrible teacher. Success makes you feel good. Typically when you're winning, you're feeling like you're better than you actually are. And typically when you're losing, you're actually not as bad as you think you are. Because when you're winning, people are constantly trying to hype you up and say, you're the man, you're doing it, you're killing it. And that the euphoric sense is very much ingrained in your head. It's an impregnation of this idea that I am the best. And that can be very dangerous to think, because you are the best at that moment. You are the best in that situation. You are the best given all the confounding variables that caused you to win. But the moment that you win, you may not be the best, because the moment that you win is another, that's one time, but then the moment after is a different time. And that timeline is completely independent. There's a lot of confounding variables that may present you as a good option. But as time elongates, you have the idea of time decayed reversed, right? So you have the exponential chance of somebody else coming in and improving and learning your techniques and learning your methods and learning your skill set of whatever you're doing to beat you. They're learning your strategy because it's been so well documented, because there's so many eyes on you, because you have been qualified as a winner, as number one. So winning builds ego. Winning makes you, number one, a target. Your vulnerabilities are more so illustrated. People are more so intentional about taking from you. And it also makes you egotistical, so your guard goes down. So that the gloves are not at the face. You're lowering your guard. Very dangerous. So it's a cocktail right there. Just with these two, it's a recipe for disaster. And the third area, just to make it worse, right? Why winning is very consequential is that winning can be very dangerous if you don't know what you're doing, if you're not ready for the win, and if you're not really qualified to take that level of respect. Because winning elevates you. It puts you in a different category, and it makes you better. And you have to develop as a person to fit into those shoes. You have to really understand what comes with that title. You have to really have that responsibility. And a lot of people just don't develop that as they win because of all those other things. And so it can become something where you have to fall into a responsibility that is hard to fulfill. Like, in order to win, you have to really embrace sacrifice. You have to be lonely. You have to have a 1%, 1%, 1% mindset, which makes you, by default, in a sense, crazy because of society, because most people that don't see eye to eye with you will call you crazy. So winning, it really changes your psychology, and it kind of isolates you from people, and it kind of makes you, it makes you very, very sad sometimes, because you have all the success and you don't really have people to relate to because you're different. I'm sure that people that are great, LeBron feels isolated. He has to hold up this example. Ronaldo, I'm sure he feels isolated. Like, Ronaldo is low-key the celebrity of celebrities. Like, I don't think you guys understand. Like, celebrities go crazy over Ronaldo. Like, Ronaldo is that guy, the most followed person on social media. Like, I've seen videos, like, there's a video out there on the internet with, like, J-Lo's sister, and she's going nuts over Ronaldo. Like, he is the number one of number one. And that's, like, weird. That's not, like, great sometimes. Just being so up there. It's like, is this it? Are there any others? And you discipline yourself. You lock yourself into a mindset that can be almost antisocial. But it's required. You want to be great. You want to win. You want to do that. It typically comes from trauma. It comes from a pained mindset. It comes from people that I know that win at a very high level. They don't come from perfect backgrounds. They come from very, very tough, difficult backgrounds. Like, there's a lot of guys that get a little far in life with their good background because they have a little push from daddy and mommy and whatever it is, and that perfect lifestyle. And I'm not saying there's anything bad from that, but typically, the people that I know that just come in and just are number one hitters, they come from a lot of pain. And sometimes a situation when daddy and mommy are always there and in a rich household, like, that doesn't necessarily need to be, like, that's not a lack of trauma, okay? There's a lot of trauma in rich households. There's a lot of trauma in poor households. There's a lot of trauma in being extremely successful and living up to those, footprints of your parents and what they did. There's a lot of trauma in having nothing to kind of have that head start. So there's trauma in everything if you really look at it, and if you're really framed in the possible way, in the right way. You have to just really philosophically entertain it and learn from it and grow from it, because the only nobility in victimhood is really overcoming it. So that makes winning kind of expensive, right? Because now there's no privacy. You're a target. You're constantly being evaluated. Number two, the ego, it's constantly bumped. And then third, you kind of have to become a different person. But the ultimate cost of winning is eventually losing, because you lose eventually. You never win forever. Winning is temporary. Winning is rented. That position that you have as number one is always rented. And in the period of time that you have that rental, you've really got to, do the most that you can. Really use it. And that determines whether you can coast for a little bit or, you get knocked off. So yeah, winning is not so simple. Winning is a very complex thing, and I think success is a terrible teacher. And I think that when we win, there's a big loss coming. And I think that when we lose, we get excited, we get kind of hyped up because there's something good coming. Because when you lose enough times, you have to win. And that's just the nature of it. The world is typically oscillating between a yin and yang kind of mindset. And a great analogy of this is the casino. If you, bet red, okay, or you bet a certain thing over and over and over again, eventually you will win because the statistical odds kind of balance out. And that's just the law of large numbers. You might need hundreds of thousands, if not million points on the data set, but over a large period of time, the losses over and over again will turn to wins, and the wins over and over again will eventually turn to losses. And failure and losing that position is quite hard on the ego. So while the ego is built up, it can also be crashed down, and that volatility creates a lot of psychological trauma for somebody that they can, really get messed up. So I hope this makes sense. I appreciate you guys for taking a little bit of time out of your day to listen to me. If you haven't done so already, hit that bell notification to say subscribe to my YouTube, and definitely leave me a review on my podcast. Thank you so much, guys, for everything that you do here at Thoughtcast, for supporting the content that I put out. If you ever need one-on-one coaching, the link will be in the bio. Until next time, guys, Sumi out.